After 1 year of waiting, Marcus felt that he could wait no longer, and he decided that he must go and find out what had become of his eldest son. But John knew that his father was getting old, so he offered to go on his behalf. Although his father and brother hadn't always treated him that well, he didn't bear them a grudge, because all he wanted to do was to free his father from poverty. And so, without a sword or a horse, he set off. He took the same path through the wood that his brother Henry had taken, and when he came to the pond, he had a little nap until he was woken by the ducks. They were not afraid of this gentle-looking young man. They even waddled out of the water to get a closer look at him.
Hello.
John loved the ducks and shared his bread with them. Then he continued on his way. Next, he came across the anthill, where the ants were rebuilding their broken home.
Just to get this far, you know.
He helped them to mend it by digging up earth and working with the straw.
That's very kind of you.
The ants were very grateful for his help and hoped that one day they would be able to repay him for his kindness.
Thank you so much for helping.
Next, he saw a swarm of bees busily trying to repair their hive. So the thoughtful fellow picked a wonderful bunch of flowers full of pollen for them.
Lovely flowers.
John's behavior was obviously very different from Henry's.
Thank you very much.
Finally, he arrived at the sorcerer's castle. The sorcerer's assistant met him at the door and told him to have a rest before attempting the tasks. John had the best night's sleep he'd ever had and felt refreshed and full of courage the next morning. On the strike of 9, the sorcerer's assistant appeared out of nowhere, as sorcerer's assistants do. She told John about the first task. Gather a bucket full of seeds, scattered in a meadow? Well, it sounds difficult, but I'll certainly have a go, said John. He knew that he'd have to try, because he desperately wanted to help his father. So he knelt down in the meadow and picked up the seeds one by one. But there was no way he could pick them all up in 1 hour. Then suddenly, a long line of ants appeared.
Come on, everybody at it. Quick now. Got a lot to do.
They were coming to help
Boys,
him.
we'll soon get rid of this lot.
There were so many of the little creatures that in a few minutes they had picked all the seeds up.
This is a heavy one.
Thank you so much, said John.
Think nothing of it.
Said the ants.
It's just our way of repaying you for helping us rebuild our home. Bye, John. Bye-bye. Good luck. Lots of love, John.
John had done well. He had finished the task before the time was up. I am very pleased with you, said the sorcerer's assistant. Now it's time for your second task. Again, she threw the 12 gold keys into the moat, and she gave John 1 hour to get them all back. This task worried John, because he wasn't a very strong swimmer, but he knew he had to try for his father's sake. He dived into the moat, and the water was so cold and dark that he couldn't see the bottom. John swam back up to the surface straight away. How am I going to get those keys back? He muttered to himself. And as he stared helplessly into the dark, cold water, he saw his old friends, the ducks, swimming towards him.
We'll help you.
They wasted no time in diving into the moat and retrieving the keys for him.
There you are, John.
How can I ever repay you? Said John when he saw them with the keys in their beaks.
Quack, quack, quack. You already have. By sharing your bread with us,
was the duck's reply.
Quack, 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 quack.
The sorcerer's assistant appeared again. You have done very well this time, she said. Now it's time for the final task. But I must warn you that if you do not complete the task, you will pay with your life. "I am not afraid," said John. "Tell me what the task is." So the sorcerer's assistant took him to the room with the 3 veiled figures, and the challenge was set again. Then the sorcerer himself appeared. "Choose," he said. He watched John carefully. "How can I choose? I don't know which of the 3 is the Princess Esmeralda." Suddenly, the swarm of bees he'd met in the wood came to his rescue. The bees started buzzing round the head of the figure in the middle.
This one.
John told the sorcerer that he thought this one was the princess. "This one is Esmeralda." And he was right. He was so relieved when he saw that 2 dragons were under the other veils. Then John turned to the bees in his usual gracious manner and said, "Thank you, kind bees. You have saved my life." The veil fell from the figure in the middle to reveal a beautiful girl. "I am indeed the Princess Esmeralda," she said. "Thank you for breaking the spell that has held me prisoner all these years. Please take me away from here and make me your wife." And then the sorcerer and the 2 terrifying dragons disappeared, while the sorcerer's assistant congratulated John on successfully completing all the tasks. John then took the princess's hand, but in all the excitement, the shy young man had forgotten to introduce himself to his future bride.
Oh dear,
And before he could do so, she said, "I don't know your name, but I will call you my love." The king gave a magnificent party to celebrate his daughter's freedom and her wedding to gentle John. And Esmeralda couldn't have found a better husband than John if she'd met all the suitors in the land, because he was a kind man who had a great respect for nature. Old Marcus was invited to join in the celebrations and to share his son's happiness. And although he was sad about losing Henry, even he had to admit that it was John and not Henry who had proved himself to be the better son.